all this. You don't. I'm going to give you a rule in just a moment. But before I do that, I have to talk about two of these things on the list that is wording that you might not normally use. So I have A is a sufficient condition for C, and C is a necessary condition for X, right? You might not speak in those terms, but let's figure out what they mean and how we would symbolize them as a conditional, because they are conditional. So suppose we have X is a sufficient condition for Y, okay? And then we also have X is a necessary condition for Y, okay? How do we symbolize these? Does X go in front or behind? And same thing here. Well, let's use something that I think we might understand. Rain is a sufficient condition for clouds. Okay. Rain is a sufficient condition for clouds. Would we say this, R then C, or would we say C then R? Which of those is right?
C equals to R.
C to R?
Yeah.
No, because you can have clouds without rain. Okay? So think of sufficient condition for as guarantees. Okay? So rain, if we have rain, what do we know? Then there are clouds. But just because we have clouds doesn't mean that there is rain. Does everybody understand that? So on this one, X is a sufficient condition for Y. Notice rain came first and it stays in front. Clouds came second, stays behind. So X, then Y. That's how we would do it. And here's your memory trick for remembering it. X is a sufficient condition for, the order stays the same. Sufficient, same. Everybody got that? Okay. Now let's do this. Clouds are a necessary condition for rain. Would we say R then C or C then R? Well, you can have clouds without rain. Does everybody understand that? So this is not true. So this is what's true. If rain, then clouds. Everybody got that? Now notice that we're putting the rain here, and the rain came from back here, so they need to trade places. So if I say X is a necessary condition for Y, because it's a necessary condition, the Y goes in front and the X goes in back. Okay? So if you come across is a necessary condition for, it is necessary to change the order. Sufficient, the order stays the same. Necessary, the order flips. Does everybody understand that? Okay? All right. Now, besides the necessary and sufficient condition for, how do we remember all those other ones? Well, right below the box, I have this rule. It's the whatever follows if rule. Okay? Whatever simple or complex statement follows if is the antecedent unless it's an only if. Okay? Now you might say, well, that's great, but not all of them have ifs, right? Look at the fourth one down, given, and then provided, in case, on condition, implies. How the hell does your rule help me there? Well, think about this. If I have X given Y, all I need to do is I need to think about that word and ask myself, what does that word mean? Does it mean something equivalent to if, or does it mean something equivalent to then? What does given mean to you, if or then?
Then.
If I say, given you've done your homework,
If.
if. So it means if. So you can mentally say, that means if, and now you can follow my rule. Whatever follows if is the antecedent unless it's an only if. Okay, so we know it's a hook. Whatever follows is the antecedent. Antecedents always go in front. So I'm going to bring the y over here and the x over there. Everybody understand that? What does the word provided mean, if or then? If, in case, if, on the condition, if, implies then. Everybody got that? So if you just remember whatever follows, the if is the antecedent unless it's an only if, you got it made, okay? Now there's one more statement type that we need to do, and let me do this one. Heaven exists if and only if hell exists. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to find the simple statements. Heaven exists is one, and we already decided we're going to use H as a statement constant for that. And now we have a new thing, hell exists. That's either true or false. So it needs a statement constant. And what can we not use? H. Does everybody understand that? Got to pick something that we haven't already used. We've used G and stuff like that. So the other class voted for L because we got two L's in there. Okay? All right. If and only if. What the heck is this? Well, this is a logical operator known as biconditional. If and only if, okay? And we symbolize the biconditional like this, a triple bar. So it'd be H triple bar L. We don't have names for the different parts, and technically speaking, it doesn't matter which one comes first or which one comes second. Everybody got that? Biconditional. Why is it called the biconditional? Well, suppose I say something like this. Fred goes fishing if and only if Barney goes fishing. Well, what does that mean? It means if Fred goes fishing, then what? Fred goes fishing if and only if Barney goes. If Fred goes fishing, then what? Then Barney goes fishing. And if Barney goes fishing, then what? Then Fred goes fishing. Okay, hey, there's a conditional. There's another conditional. That's two, as in biconditional. Does everybody understand that? Okay, biconditional. Let me see my words and phrases for biconditional. So if and only if is one way to indicate a biconditional. And then also logicians, philosophers, mathematicians will use IFF, and that's shorthand for if and only if. Everybody understand that, okay? And also, necessary condition is a conditional. Necessary condition by itself is a conditional. Sufficient condition by itself is a conditional. But when you put them together, if I say X is a necessary and sufficient condition for Y, or I say X is a sufficient and necessary condition for Y, when I have both of those, it's a biconditional. Everybody got that? Okay. So if you see both of those together, it's a biconditional. Okay. Just a couple more things. The phrase just in case. So X just in case Y. How do we translate that? Well, I have seen professional philosophers, logicians, mathematicians use it differently. Okay? Sometimes it's just a plain old hook, sometimes it's a biconditional. There is no consistent use of the phrase just in case, okay? So we are going to avoid saying just in case because it's not clear what it means. There's no clear meaning. There's no agreed upon consistent meaning for just in case. And if someone says just in case to you, you need to ask, well, do you mean X if Y, or X only if Y, or X if and only if Y? And most people will say, what's the difference? But there's a huge difference, okay? So, and let's remind ourselves of that difference. So, X if Y, that's one thing. X only if Y, and then X if and only if Y, okay? This is a horseshoe. Whatever follows the if is the antecedent unless it's an only if, so this is the antecedent, so Y, X, okay? And here, X only if Y, horseshoe, whatever follows if is the antecedent unless it's an only if. It is an only if, so that's not the antecedent. If it's not the antecedent, it's the consequent. Consequent goes behind, so Y goes there and X goes there, okay? Now, X if and only if, well, that's X triple bar Y, right? And in ordinary English, many people don't make a distinction between these three different statements. They're completely different, okay? In ordinary English, sometimes people just X if Y, X only if Y, more emphasis, right? X if and only if Y, super emphasis. No. We're not just jacking up the emphasis. These all mean different things if we're speaking carefully. Does everybody understand that? Okay. Are there any questions about any of this so far? Okay. So what I want to do right now is I want to start doing some of the homework for 2.1, okay? Together. I don't want to start section 4 here